Hi there. Tonight I thought we could just have a little bit of a chat about something that is often on my mind and something that I'd really like to discuss with you. And I hope you're going to give me your opinion because these are things that I really struggle with. And the thing that I struggle with a lot is around performing your pain. And the differentiation between walking a healing journey, being healed, and using your pain to validate who you are and what happened to you. So let's get into a little bit of it. I think that sometimes pain can become our identity. We become known by what happened to us instead of who we are becoming or how we've overcome. And I think we spend so much time worrying about why bad people do bad things and why people make bad choices and why people hurt each other and trying to figure out why that. I think a lot of that comes from a place of there must be a reason. There must be a logical reason why somebody would hurt somebody else like that. But you can't use reasonable man tests for people who are unreasonable. You can't measure someone who has no morality against someone who has morality. And what is normal? Like, how do you measure these things? So I think what sometimes happens is our pain is so big and our trauma is so overwhelming that we start to identify with it and it becomes who we are. And I've been like that at times in my life. But I can tell you it's not a happy place. And it's not an easy place. And I don't think that we should ever be called on to perform our pain in order to be believed or to feel like we have to perform our pain in order to be validated. So when we're sharing about things that have happened to us, I think we need to also understand that when we're sharing things that happen to us, those things can shock and hurt other people. They can traumatize other people. And so when we are sharing about our journey, let's share victories. Let's share how we survived. Let's talk about what makes successful surviving and what makes successful healing. Let's spend less time figuring out why crazy people are crazy and evil people are evil and spend more time asking about how people overcome and why they overcome and what successfully overcoming looks like. So I think there's a difference between sharing what happened to you and performing your pain, because performing your pain is seeking validation. It's looking for approval. It's wanting someone to say, I see your pain. I identify with you through suffering. And I'm wondering when people get together and perform their pain, if it doesn't create another kind of trauma bond where people get stuck in revisiting their pain all the time because that's the only time they get validation. The two things are very different. Sharing your survival story, sharing your thriving story, sharing your healing space is a different thing to performing your pain. For when you talk about it, it being, hey, I'm hurt, I'm hurt, I'm hurt. And then people saying, yes, I can see you hurt. So when I come to think about it, I ask myself the question, has social media helped us teach healing? Or is it like a gladiator effect? People are looking at other people's trauma in order to make themselves feel better, in order to say, hey, you know what, at least that's not happening to me. And the problem with that is that they're minimizing what they're going through, and there's no real connection in that. Social media rewards visible pain. The more dramatic a story is, the more attention it receives, the more following it gets. But that doesn't make healing deeper. It's just more visible. It doesn't make your pain bigger than anyone else's. It just makes it more visible. And the question is, what do you want to be when you look at yourself in the mirror? Do you want to always look at yourself as unbroken? Or do you want to start looking at yourself like you're emerging? So when we talk about healing, we don't have to talk about these big moments. We don't have to have these epiphanies in public. Because sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come through in little ordinary moments. One of the biggest breakthroughs for me was understanding that I was making myself sick because I was holding on to pain. I was storing it in my body. I was making myself as unattractive as possible in order to avoid attention. And I was hurting myself because I thought that I deserved it. And that didn't come from someone else telling me that. It was an epiphany moment, but it was tiny. It was, if you carry on like this, you're going to have to start injecting insulin. And I was not doing that. And so when I started to eat properly and I started to feel the weight come off, I had to do a huge amount of work. Huge. Because I had to ask myself, why have I been protecting myself like this for years? And what was I afraid of? That's what it was for me. That doesn't mean that's what it is for you. And I've had many moments like that over the years. Moments where I had built myself up so much inside that I had to tell someone. And when I told someone and they didn't have the reaction I was expecting, it was an aha moment for me. Those are little things. The moment when you have this realization, I need to get out of here right now before somebody dies. Big moments, but small moments. In the history of the world, the ground didn't shake. Nothing calamitous happened in that moment, but it was I've got this now. And sometimes those moments are when nobody sees, and sometimes they're when everybody's looking. And it doesn't really matter because it's not a competition. And trauma isn't a competition, and healing isn't a competition. And life doesn't have to be a competition. You don't have to perform your pain in order to be believed. And you don't have to prove that you're in pain in order to get support. And you don't have to define yourself by what happened to you. And there isn't a right or wrong amount of pain to show, by the way. So there are times when maybe you can't stop crying, and that's okay. And there are times when you are calm and collected, and that's also okay. The question is, what are you doing? Where's the solution around it? When you recognize that you're in that place and it's so painful, yes, you have to feel it to heal it. Yes, you go through all the stages. But I've seen people stay in one stage for years and years and years because they feed it, they get attention from it, they get validation from it, they get approval from others for it, and they get encouraged to stay there. And that for me is a great sadness. So for me, when I think about telling my story, And I'm going to do that very soon. Again, we'll do a Celeste Uncensored. But when I tell my stories, they're not about performing my scars or showing them. They're not about reopening old wounds. I tell my story because I want people to know that no matter how dark it is right now, no matter how broken you feel right now, no matter how hopeless you feel right now, there's always a solution and there's always a way forward, and there's a way to step into yourself, into your best self. But only you can do it. People can walk with you, but they can't walk for you. Your story belongs to you. And how much of it you tell and when you tell and how you tell should be entirely up to you. And you shouldn't be encouraged, forced, coerced into telling your story. And no matter what that story is, it shouldn't be the case. So for a long time, I wanted people to understand how badly I'd been hurt, how hard my life has been. I wanted people to understand the kind of pain that I was feeling all the time. And then I realized I was keeping myself trapped in that like a caged. I was caged in it. And so I started putting it down, and it took me years. I put down a little thing at a time. I changed perspective a little bit at a time. It wasn't one day I was terrible and the next day I was fine. But I stopped asking myself, do people understand what I've been through? And started asking myself, who do I want to be now and who am I becoming? So there comes a moment in your healing when you realize that your pain no longer needs a stage. That doesn't mean that your pain isn't real. It doesn't become less real. It's real. But it stops being the loudest thing about you. So when we're talking about being brave enough, what am I talking about? I'm talking about being brave enough to live. Let your life become the message, not your pain, not your wound. You know, we can talk about get up, show up, but what about get up, show up, and give it the best that you've got? What about, so what if people think you are wild or uncontrollable or quiet and reserved? So what? Always think about, the people that mind don't matter and the people that matter don't mind. But I also think about this, there's a need for us being not just accountable for doing something when we see something, but also for being accountable for letting people have autonomy. Because if we become controlling, then we become the same as the people who hurt us, who controlled us. And this thing about a life sentence, here's your life sentence. Be brave enough to live. Be brave enough to win. You win by stepping into your best you, by not becoming what broke you, by not bleeding on people who didn't hurt you. And it's hard. And I don't always get it right. I try. The other day I asked my staff if I had red flags. And of course, I have red flags. Everybody has one or two. I'm a survivor. I'm difficult. I struggle. But I try every day to be better than the day before. And that's all anyone can ask of you. You're putting all this pressure on yourself to be strong enough, to be brave enough, to do what everybody else expects you to do, to become what everybody else expects you to become. But actually, why don't you just focus on becoming your best you? Why not take some of the pressure off? Why not ask yourself, why am I carrying all this burden? What am I getting out of spending my life focusing on the very person that hurt me? And do they deserve that much of my time? And do they deserve that much of my headspace? And whose voice is in my head anyway? And are we cognizant of the fact that not every a person who hurts you is exactly the same as another person who hurts someone else? We're going to have all these psychological theories and we want to prove, and we want to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we want to say, this is why they were hurt as a child, and that's why they're hurting other people. No. Not everybody who was hurt as a child hurts other people. Maybe we're just spending too much time wondering why people hurt other people, and we should start asking, how do we heal? And does the why matter if the how is so hard? And does the why matter when the pain that was inflicted is 10 times more important than why someone did it? Who knows why? Reasonable people don't go out and hurt other people for some perverse pleasure. Why are we so focused on what makes people unreasonable? I don't understand that. I find it hard to understand. I think one of the biggest struggling blocks that I had so far in my healing journey was understanding that people plan to hurt other people, that they actually think that way, that they are so manipulative and so conniving, and they are so sly that they literally know what they're doing when they're getting you into that situation and they're hurting you. I couldn't get my head around it for years. And then one day I came to the realization that they do it because they can. And it doesn't actually matter why. What matters is what I'm going to do with my pain. What am I going to do with my life? Now, how am I going to be able to look myself in the mirror? And I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of things wrong. I've fallen, because we all fall. The question is, how are you rising? And what does that even mean? What does it mean to rise? Are we rising militant? Are we after vindictive punishing of people? Are we going, I'm going to be the best me that I can be, so that when I go out into the world, I can spread something different? Not pain, not trauma, connection, growth. I can live connected with other people. I can know where I end and other people begin. I can have courageous conversations. I can agree to disagree. And all of those things are important. And those are things that don't just apply to survivors, they apply to everyone. How do I become the best me I can be? Sorry. And what do I do to get to that point? And we can talk about that and what I did to get to where I am today, and I'm nowhere near perfect. We could talk about all of those things, what you did to get to where you are today. And I think it all starts with the realization that you need to fight for you. And I don't mean fight like this. I mean, you have to struggle with who am I and who do I want to be? Because that you get to choose. And circumstances may differ. Things may change. People will judge you. People will make assumptions. People think they know you when they don't. People will say things that are painful, deeply painful, without even realizing it and never apologizing. But it's not about what the other people are doing. It's about what are you doing and what are you bringing to the world. Because you can sit and bemoan how you've been treated, the bad things that have happened to you. And you do have to go through a healing process. You have to go through the stages of grieving the things that you've lost and doing all of those things. But eventually you need to put it down. And the real victory is living a full and happy life. That's the real victory. The real victory is being able to get up in the morning and go, hey, I'm okay. And understanding that a bad moment is not a bad day, is not a bad life. And that you're trapped in a moment that was so hard, but actually you've already survived it. Those are things that I've been thinking about. I've been thinking a lot about the gladiator phenomenon, about how we want that drama and that pain and to see people's pain because maybe it makes your pain feel a little bit less. I'm not sure why people enjoy watching other people suffer or getting people to have these huge reactions and horror over and over again. I don't understand it. I've watched social media. I've watched people absolutely annihilate other people on social media. In fact, I've been annihilated on social media. And why? Why? Have you seen some of the things people say to each other on social media? It's absolute horror. It's a disgrace. The things that people push other people to do. Not concerned about what their lives are like. Because it's easy. It's easy. You're not looking at someone in the eye. You don't have to say it to their face. You can type there, you are a horrible person who did this and that. There doesn't even have to be any truth to it. Everybody will believe it and they'll go sit there and they'll watch the drama and then they'll add to it and it'll blow out of proportion. And then everybody will be talking about it. And they'll all be talking about the pain of it. And very few people will be talking about the healing from it. And if we don't, as a generation, start healing and teaching our children how to heal and spreading healing in the world, things are never going to get any better. They never are. Because there just hasn't been enough healing in the world. So, after all of that and me absolutely venting my concerned brain all over you, I want to ask you one question. Are you brave enough to live? Are you brave enough to ask the hard questions? Are you brave enough to ask, am I hurting someone else by telling my story this way? And is this about me? And what is validation? And why am I looking for it elsewhere? And how long is long enough to let this person who tried to break me but didn't succeed, see, they didn't succeed because we're still breathing. How long am I going to abdicate my power to them and let them win? Because as long as all you are thinking about is this person that hurt you and that moment when you were hurt, if that is the entirety of your life, then they win and you lose. So I'd really, really like to hear what you need, what you think, and whether you are ready to be brave enough to live.